Paul Skenes is leading the show because baseball is starting in 2 days. And I wanted to bring to your attention what it means when a player like Paul Skenes is forced to be in a position of leadership at a really young time in his career. And that leadership manifested itself yesterday when he came out and talked about his feeling about himself, the expectations he has on himself. He talked about the city of Pittsburgh, how much he feels he and the Pirates owe to the city of Pittsburgh. He talked about his exhaustion in having Pittsburgh celebrate Sid Bream, Dave Parker going into the Hall of Fame, Bonds, Van Slyke, Leland, choose it, however you want to choose it. He feels as though that the golden era of the Pirates in the past needs to be in the past, and he needs to lead this team into the now and the future. Very difficult to have a young player be forced to take that position. Paul Skenes, Rookie of the Year. Paul Skenes, who came up with all of these expectations and performed absolutely to those expectations during his stint last year in the big leagues. But now he's a full-time, every 5-day, no innings limit pitcher. And the question is, are we at the point now where we can say that he's the best pitcher in baseball? The problem with giving that mantle to a second-year pitcher is that when you're in the clubhouse, when you get to know these players and you get to know and understand how they feel about their own expectations, you really are forced into a position to manage each type of personality differently, which is what you should do in your company, in your life. You can't treat everybody the same. There are some players who can actually thrive under the burden of expectations, but there are equally those players who wilt under those same expectations. And you've got scouts and you've got development people and managers, coaches, GMs, even team presidents who are trying to guess in advance what type of player an individual is going to be, the wilter or the thriver. Paul Skenes said that I am given my expectations and given other people's expectations of me through the betting markets as established by DraftKings and others, or just by the people in media who are going through expectations for the season, making their predictions, which incidentally will be me tomorrow giving you a full preview of what's going to happen or what I perceive will happen during the season. But he said, if anything, it would be pitching down to other people's expectations the way I think about it. The expectations I have for myself, he said, different than what everybody else outside has, and everybody else outside doesn't matter. And what I love about that is that everybody outside has expectations that are to the moon and that are incredibly likely unrealistic. And so what he's saying is that he's ahead of that. He's above that. And that gives me pause. And not pause about him as a player, not pause about him as a person, but pause about what Derek Shelton, his manager, or Huntington, his general manager, what they have to do to get the most out of him. Because it's the wilters who I've seen more often. It's those who come in with this huge burden and they've got a bad start. They have a bad stretch at the plate. And all of a sudden they start wilting, meaning they get off social media, meaning they don't talk to the media as much, meaning they don't talk to their teammates as much, meaning there's more tension in between starts or before games during BP. If it's a position player, you see the player pressing. There's several types of pressing players, like there's several types of pressing people. When you've got someone on the edge of making a team, they're sort of a 4A player. They're not as good to be a major leaguer. They're too good to be a AAA player. They're called a 4A player. We often see those players press, and that manifests itself in not having patience at the plate, not trusting your stuff, and not throwing the proper pitches and the proper counts, not sticking to the game plan, trying to come out and just overpower people with your four-seamer, two-seamer, either way. Pressing often leads to negative results. And so we will get the psychologist involved and we'll talk to the player about, listen, you don't worry about our job, which is putting the roster together or putting a rotation together. Just worry about you as the player, being the best player you can be, knowing you can't control what we do. Paul Skenes, in his quotes, is saying, I'm not going to worry about what anyone else says because I'm going to be harder on myself than anyone. But we're all being super hard on him. So but just by making him the favorite to win the Cy Young. So if he actually is going to be harder on himself than we are, that could be a prescription for failure. It could be a prescription for injury. So if I am the Pirates and I read these quotes, and they don't have the veterans in the clubhouse to deal with this, Brian Reynolds, in theory, could deal with this. It can't be De La Cruz, but it doesn't matter, whoever it may be. My thought is this. It could be Andrew McCutchen. My thought is that I'm talking to Paul Skenes today. We're still 2 days before his start, and I'm sitting him down to say, I read what you said. I love that you want to be this type of leader, but from our standpoint in the front office, we love you just the way you are. We don't need you to take on that extra responsibility. We want you to actually focus on taking the ball every 5 days and making it through an entire season, 30-plus starts, approach 200, if not surpass 200 innings, and then the chips will fall where they do. I hope the Pirates are taking care of Paul Skenes. He deserves to be taken care of. He is practically already the face of baseball, at least not in Japan. So it is going to be interesting to watch as his season develops.